So I'm originally from Haiti, and I grew up, so I didn't know the Black Wall Street history, right? I just didn't know that history. So 3 years ago, there's a bank called Webster Bank. They had me come and speak to their Black employees, and someone wrote a book on Greenwood, Black Wall Street. And I was like, I've been in banking for like 15, 16 years at that time, and I never heard that. So I was embarrassed because I didn't know that history. So I presented, she presented, and then a good friend of mine, Cordell Carter, said, we're doing a delegation to Tulsa during Tulsa Innovation Summit, and I was one of 20, 25 who came to the delegation. So it was like, wow, I heard about this. Now I got a chance to visit pretty quickly a lot of sites. Like it was like mind-boggling. And I left there were two people that I met on that tour, and I was like, wow. You know when you come to a place, you're like, what would I want out of it? And I said, if I can connect with these two people afterwards, I would have felt it was a successful trip. One was Ashley and one was AJ from Oasis Supermarket. We had a tour of this building, and I was like, wow, they got a building focused on Black entrepreneurs, focused on female entrepreneurs. I was raised by a single mother, so you know the female entrepreneurs, the female empowerment thing. And I've got two girls, so girl dad, so I fully understand. But the brothers need help too, I'm just saying. 70% of my client base are Black female who are killing it, right? And I'm personally, at night, I feel like there is a crisis with the Black males, right? Because even the married couples, the sisters are outperforming the guys. And so that's my other personal mission is like, got to figure out how to help the guys. But we're not here for that. And so we had great calls, and I said, wow, I would love to be engaged. And we had a couple of calls. So I want to, first of all, thank you, Ashley, for really, connecting with me. Because sometimes you go to places, you meet people, and they don't follow up with you. And thank you for doing that. And then thank you to Christina and Desiree. The planning of this was impeccable. Like the follow through, so I want to say to the whole team with Building Tulsa was incredible. Why is this work important for me, right? It leads to our health. It leads to, 80% of people working in jobs are stressed about money. They can't focus on their jobs because they can't pay their bills, right? And then, so I have a couple of ground rules, right? And so the idea of shame, the reason why I have focused on minority, Black, Hispanic community is because I know we don't get the right information. We've been hurt, we've been taken advantage of. So we have this thing about shame. I just want to say, like, there's no shame in this. Some of us, and I'm generalizing, like some Black folks, some Hispanics, you were raised in a family that talked about money. I'm putting you to the side. But for the average of us, we didn't have this education. Nobody talked about money. It was sort of like parents didn't, so we never got that history. My first Jewish friend was my college roommate. This guy was always on the phone. I'm like, who are you talking to, Dave? He's like, my stockbroker. I'm like, yo, what? Your stockbroker? I was like, what's that? So it's just things that certain races have access to that we don't. And so I've committed my 20 years of banking to focusing on this segment. And that's why this is very important to me, especially now. This concept of like freedom, financial wellness, wealth building, I'll go into that and explain what that means, but it's just something right now, especially with the current landscape. And freedom for you may be different from freedom from you, right? And so whatever that freedom means, we just have to learn about the foundation of saying how to get that for you, right? And so ground rules, like there's no shame, and also confidentiality. Like you should be able to ask any questions right now. Like don't be fearing of like, it's a dumb question, I don't know. I always say like, if you're agreeing to engaging from today going forward, whatever you did in the past, I don't care about that. Like we all made the mistakes. Let's agree from this day forward, we're moving forward, right? And we'll go through some steps. Is that clear? Clear. And we want this to be engaged. Like you got questions, just talk loud. Like let's make this interactive. But like I would want you to come out of this. You've got some clarity. Some things make sense. It's a journey. This is not a diet. This is like, what steps can we take? Little steps to move ourselves into this financial wellness period. Are we good? What will you get out of this session? We're going to talk about financial goals, budgeting, right? And so just some basic understanding of budgeting, understanding credit. What does financial planning mean for startups? And it's important to share that, a lot of times people say like, you're a financial advisor or financial planner. We're not here to push products. For us, planning means in terms of like understanding your goals and saying, what are you trying to get to? What are the 2 or 3 things you're trying to get to? And then our process, whether you make 50,000 or 30 million, it's the same process, right? But we'll give you some of those tips. But I just want to make sure the difference of like somebody's pushing products and people say, oh, I just want to talk about investments. Well, that's not planning. Planning is like, what are we doing? What's the plan? And then the products are a byproduct to the plan, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Is that clear? And then we're always focused on credit score. I want us to focus on net worth, right? And I will explain that. I'll give you the simple formula about your net worth and what you should be doing to focus on how do we know our clients are making progress? And I'll share that as well, right? Are we good?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. That's who I am. That's my email address. That's my phone number. And let me just a little about my background. How did I get here? So I got into banking pretty on. I joined HSBC Bank, which is a global bank. I joined a management training program for 3 years. I worked overseas. And I stumbled into this wealth, private client space about really working with individuals and entrepreneurs. And then I decided I was the first black private banker at HSBC. I decided to just really work on this segment, right? Which is, I feel like a lot of people, although focus on us, but I feel like I know sometimes I have to take 2, 3 extra meetings because sometimes we just don't understand the language, right? And so I feel the education is as important in sort of telling people what the process is. So what is financial well-being? You know, do I have control about my day-to-day expenses, right? And so the first thing that we say is that, does the average person know per month what you need to live on? Who right now knows how much per month they need to run their household? Okay, a few of you. And how did y'all come up with that? You use a spreadsheet, you use a Excel spreadsheet? Okay. And how many, let's see, high hands, and this is no shame, how many don't really know how much money they need per month to live on? And do you pretty much just like, the money comes in, I pay the bills, and I keep it moving month to month?
No, my wife does.
Your wife does, okay, all right. The second thing is having capacity to absorb financial. When the pandemic came, it was a problem. It was a problem because most of us are one check from poverty, right? And this high idea of cushion, like, could you sustain not working for 6 months? Could you sustain if you didn't get a job? If you're an entrepreneur, I know, but like your revenue was not coming in for a year, what would happen to your household? You don't have to answer that loud, but just what would that mean? For a lot of us, it's shock. Right? And so that's pretty important. And then goals, right? And how many people have financial goals? Beginning of the year, you say, I'm going to focus on this for the year. I would say that would be the number one thing we need to do. It doesn't have to be, and we'll give you some examples, it doesn't have to be 6 things. It could be like, this year, I want to save $10,000. This year, I'm going to get rid of X credit card. I think for this work, I'm going to talk about the people that are entrepreneurs, and then I'll talk about the folks that are still in jobs or thinking about to be an entrepreneur. You yourself first, if you're building a house, is the foundation, right? There's the concept of like, I'm an entrepreneur, my business doesn't work, I'm going to file bankruptcy. No, we're not doing that. Like, we want to focus on the individual first and make sure you as an individual, if your foundation is set first, and then we're focused on the business. For some of us, it's the same. The business and the individual is the same, but we want to make sure that you are secure as the individual first. Does that make sense? Right? And then freedom. What are we looking for? We're looking for freedom, y'all. Like, we never had it, we had it, we don't have it. We want the freedom that you can do whatever you want. And whatever you want is for you. If you decide, like, I only want to work 3 days a week, fine. I want to travel for a month. I want to support this nonprofit. If you can't do that, that's the freedom we're looking for. Especially now with what's going on in this country. Like, I'm working harder than ever because we need to be financially fit. I want to say one thing. When the pandemic happened, I want to generalize. I know there's some black folks, there's some Asian folks who've got their acts together, Hispanic. I get that. I'm talking to the folks who don't. We should have had a greater uptick of wealth for the pandemic. You know why? Because we didn't understand the power of life insurance. It's one thing to have debts, and then you had debts, and then I can deliver this tax-free check for a family to make sure like the kids can go to school, they retire. We were underinsured. We had these debts and these families had debts. People were doing GoFundMes for funerals. Folks, that's unacceptable. Like, we can't be doing GoFundMes for funerals. So we saw a lot of that, and unfortunately with this, like, it was a positive and a negative, but I just share that because, you know, we didn't have this uptake of wealth because we had these debts. And some races, like, so my colleagues who cover the acidic community, they come in and they say, what's the highest amount of life insurance I qualify for? Because they understand, like, transfer of wealth, that's a lot of it is based on life insurance. But okay, so we're gonna talk about financial independence. Although there are some things they say, like, you should do in your 20s or 30s, wherever you are, if you haven't done them, if you're not 20, it's still important. So we just say 20s and 30s, but the elements you'll see is relevant at any age. We talked about independence, you know, managing the living expenses and knowing what they are. And the other thing is, what's your lifestyle? You know, can you maintain your lifestyle? And if I like to travel, it's a life. If I like to eat out, I have couples, one likes to buy sneakers, one like whatever you like to do, can what you come in at the beginning of the month sustain what you want to do? That is what is your desired life. If you don't have that desired lifestyle right now, what do you need to do to get to that desired lifestyle, whatever it is? And then I know if you're young, you don't want to talk about retirement, but we need to be thinking about retirement now. I know if you're an entrepreneur, I'm going to work till I'm 70 or whatever. It doesn't matter, but whatever it is, you need the years to plan, right? And so when you're young, you think, I don't want to think about retirement. We should be thinking about, what does retirement look like? Where would I want to be? Do I want to be in one place? Do I want to be in another place? And what does, like, healthcare look like? Because what's going to take you out is health risk, right? We need to plan these things right now and then have the 20, 30 years to plan for the future. Does that make sense? Right? I know it's a lot sometimes to think at the same time, like, I'm trying to run my business, I'm trying to make sure I have money, and then you want me to think about retirement. But we got to do all those things. Not at the same time, but we have to say, sometime I'm thinking about retirement, sometime I'm thinking about working on the business, I'm thinking about, like, you know, growing the business. So we got to be doing different things. If there's anything that we don't understand, please stop me. And living expenses is like, okay, what is the housing cost? And there are some things that every month you know you have to pay, and then there's a variable cost. If you like to shop, if you like to travel, you know, you have of weddings. If you depend on family members, that's depend on you for support. I know a lot of us, they're extended families we have to support. So I know we have a lot of burden, but its understanding is at every month, let's make a number up. Let's keep the number 5,000. Let's say you need 5,000 a month to run your household. I'm going to give you 3 scenarios. Someone makes 5,000. I'm going to keep the math really simple and tell me which scenario is the best scenario. I make 5,000. My bills are 5,000. At the end of the month, it's 0. That's scenario A. Are we clear? I make 5. My bills are 5. At the end of the month, there's no money, right? I make 5. My bills are 6,000. At the end of the month, I'm negative 1,000. Are we clear? I make 5. My bills are 6. I'm short. I make 5, my bills are 4, every month I have 1,000 left over. Which scenario do we want? The third. Then the question is, the person who has the 1,000 per month, what do they do with the 1,000? Some of us don't know. I'm shopping, I'm traveling, right? Because we don't have the goals. The person who made 5, their bills are 5, there's nothing. So when I see people with a lot of credit card debt, what does that mean? Just don't have enough money to live, right? I'm not going to the lifestyle next because I'm not judging your lifestyle, but it's like, because I don't have enough money, I need the credit cards to sustain my lifestyle, to just pay the bills. Are we clear on that? Right? So we have to, if you don't have a good assessment of what comes in, and then you don't have a good assessment like what your living expenses is, and then you don't have the goals, you can't plan for the excess because we don't know even if you said I have $1,000, okay, let's save $100 and spend. I'm not against you spending, but do what you need to do first, and then you can spend the rest. We have a different philosophy. If you like to buy shoes, and you paid all your bills, and you did everything, and you want to go to town, go to town.
Amen.
So we don't judge, but do what you need to do first, right? Okay, and then, you know, obviously the lifestyle is whatever lifestyle you are. Okay. What is being prepared for the future? Who's got a good emergency fund, a good savings? Come on, don't be shy. I want to see the hands. Who's got to get, okay. I know it's hard. Did it take a long time? Are you on a systematic plan? How did you save?
This go around, I work in sales, so I'm on commission. I just pretend like, I don't need that money. So I just get my commission check every quarter.
Who's got a system of saving I can share? What are you doing?
So we take off, we put it into our bills. It's part of our bills, and that money we never see is just automatically grabbed from our system.
That's a good one. You add the savings as a bill, right? Good one. That's a good one. Anybody else? What's your system for savings? Yeah?
I like the Capital app with it too. It just automatically deducts savings from my account for specific goals.
Yeah. So what's the right emergency fund amount? And that's a question is what you feel comfortable with. There's some clients that I have, they say 3 months. Let's stick with the 5,000 number. Let's just say you need 5,000 run out. They feel they had 3 months of that 5,000, their goal is 15,000 away. They're good, right? Some of them say, no, I need 6 months, right? So that person needs 30,000 in the bank. 5 times 6 months, and they can survive. And some are conservative, say, I need a year. It's your comfort level, but 3 to 6 months for us is a fair amount. Once you've calculated some people do it either X amount of month of your bills or X amount of month of your paycheck. Whatever you feel comfortable with. But whatever it is, we need to think about savings and a way to do it. And even if it's $50, it doesn't matter. Because some of us are like, oh my God, it's only $20. $20 per month you saved is something. It just adds up. But just getting into a systematic of savings, yes.
When you choose the number for your monthly savings, do you choose the money that you actually will get, or a more downgraded number for your monthly? Because I have right now, I'm working, I'll spend money because I have money coming in. But let's say I'm not working, then I have another budget. I have a minimum budget where I'm not contributing savings. I'm not doing all the other things. I'm just maintain. Which number do you recommend?
I think it's also with not answering until I know the budget, just saying what could you afford to save and what you feel. The key is consistency also. And if you do sales, we know it could be a good January or a bad February. And entrepreneurs, we missed those 15th and the 30th. Who thought I would miss the 15th and the 30th? I'm like, whoo, that money comes in. But this thing is hard, y'all. I got to tell you, it's hard. It's hard. But no, it's hard. It's hard because
I need some help.
No, sister, we all need help. Yeah. So and the other thing is, okay, there's the saving for emergency, and when we say emergency fund, y'all, it's not I'm going on vacation. I'm gonna dip into the emergency fund. The emergency fund is if I lost my job, I got sick, I can understand it. You got a house, the boiler goes, it's an emergency. But this is not a thing I'm dipping into because I need to go shopping or I need to go out to eat. It's a real emergency. There should be a savings that if I need to dip into something, you're going to dip into that. And then there's the emergency fund of it's an emergency. And then there's retirement savings. So I love my millennial clients. Nobody wants to work past 50. I've got some 30-year-olds and they're like, we're not working past 50. So I sit down, I'm not here to judge you. I'm just here to just share with you. So I'm not gonna make the math complicated. You have a 30-year-old who said, I'm only gonna work for 20 years, okay? They're gonna work till 50, okay? Then I say, tell me about your family. They're going to the gym, they got personal trainers, they're good. How long is your family? How long is your mother? My mother's 90, my mother's 95. I said, you're 30. You're gonna work for 20 years, that means it's gonna be 50. You're gonna live to 95. That person's been retired for 45 years. You have been retired double the amount of time that you worked. Depending on your lifestyle, because some of them don't want the house, they don't want all the trappings, but if your lifestyle is very expensive and you have not saved in retirement savings, you're gonna be working, I don't want to say any brands, unfortunately, a very long time. So you just got to think about today, what is my lifestyle? And then I need to be plugging in these different buckets, even if it's $20 in emergency fund, $20 in the saving, $20 in a retirement saving. When you're an entrepreneur, there's not a lot of left money. You got to plan. You see what I mean? Does that make sense? These are the buckets we need to be thinking about, right? And then some of us are supporting family members. And so that's an extra burden, right? So it's a lot on our plates. So this is what you should do with your 20. Well, let's take away the 20s. If I was saying like what is beginning, it's you should have goals. That's the bare minimum, right? We should have goals that annually, short-term goals, medium-term goals, 1 to 2 years, 3 to 5 years, and then the big goals, right? We need let's talk about debt. I understand the school loans. We had to go to school. We weren't blessed with free education. The loans are the loans. We don't have a choice, right? The credit card bills are another set of bills, and then we're gonna talk about it in a second. We need to have a savings plan, even if it's $20. We need to just be thinking about savings because again, I'm generalizing, we're spenders. We're very good at spending, right? The same sensation you had, like, wow, like I closed a great client, I went and bought. Do you know that sensation when you bought something new? You're like, oh, that feels good. Some people feel that same sensation when they put money in the bank. Like I have relatives, they're the opposite. They're not spending any money. They just like to see, but that works for them. But I want you to think of like the same satisfaction of spending. Can we have that same satisfaction of savings? It's a mindset of getting used to a habit, right? But it's not a fad diet. It's like, I save $20. I save $40 and get used to savings, right? The protecting against setback is the protecting against the emergency fund and then the pitfalls, all right? Does that make sense? Is that clear? This is like 101. Let's get rid of 20s and saying like this is like getting started. Are we clear? We're good? Okay, we're gonna wrap it up now. Okay, so what could be some sample goals? These are suggested. You should be saving at least 5% of whatever you make, right? Again, it can vary. That's a rule. I mean, that's like a general of your income. You should be targeting, and this is long term, right? Let's say I made $100,000. At the end of could you save 15 times that to get you to retirement, right? Again, that's a general, and then obviously it's getting the debt. The debt is hard. The debt is a hard conversation. There's the credit cards, there's the school loans, there's the mortgages if you own. The mortgage I put aside because it's an asset, right? So I don't really do that. But I think what's hurting us the most is the credit card. So here's an example. The credit card rates right now, when you borrow against them, are like 25. They're going, that's insane. 29, 30%, right? Your savings accounts are doing 1%.
Man, yeah. Math on math.
The math don't math. And look, I get it. Do we like to see money in the bank? Or do we want to pay? It's an individual strategy, okay? I would not say let's wipe out all of the savings account to pay off all the credit cards. Because what would happen? If you're not disciplined, you're ramping up those credit cards again. And now you have debt again and no savings. So I would say address the emergency fund first, and then let's come up with a plan to pay the debt. Some people say start with the smallest, psychological. Let's say if I had 3 credit cards. One had 100, one had 500, one had 2,000. Some people say pay off the 100 first because psychologically now I've got 2 debts, and then you get to the 500, get to 1,000. Some people say look at the interest rate, start with that way. It's whatever makes sense that you got a plan. We just have to have a plan, right? I do like the start with the lowest, and I could say now I only have 2 debt. I only have 1 debt. And there is I get a high paying off bills. Because I know sometimes I couldn't pay them. Like when I could pay them on time, I feel good. Like it's like an adrenaline shot. I'm like, ooh. And then you fall back. You can fall back, but like you just gotta get back up again. Like you just don't say like, oh man, like I went out, peer pressure. I went out with some friends and I fell off the bandwagon. You just can't get back on again. You just can't go a month and 2 months and 3 months. Right? But it's hard when you're in a group or circle. Like, can you can you tell your friends like, nah, I can't do it this week, I don't have any money? Some of us lie. Sometimes I've said I'm sick. Like, can we honestly say, nah, I'm gonna bow out? You just have to be careful of who you're around. If you're around people who want to elevate, like my friends now are like I call them like mini moguls. Like I want to be around them because like they inspire me. Like, because I had friends like, it was like, when's the next trip? And when's a custom suit and this and that and the Gucci loafers and this. Then you have no money. And that stress is real. Real. Does that make sense?
Can you revisit, you were saying how we should do work on our emergency fund first and then work on our debts. So would that include like investing in a Roth IRA? Should we continue to invest in that?
Okay, all right. This is what typically happens. Everybody wants to talk about investments first. So we have, I think there's a few of these. We have like a process. And the reason why, we can take one and pass around. And I just want to tell you about, when you do financial planning, there's a process, right? So I'll wait till everybody gets it, and I'm going to go back to your question. First of all, everybody thinks they're a financial advisor. Like everybody's now Googling, ChatGPT. When you have a doctor, you go to a doctor. When you need a lawyer, you go to a lawyer. This profession, for some strange reason, everybody thinks they're a financial advisor. You're an entrepreneur, you're elevating your game, you need professionals. You need somebody who does your taxes as an accountant. I get we can do our own taxes. It comes to a point like you gotta have somebody professionally doing the books, right? We're not going, like you're not injecting yourself like some people are injecting themselves. Like you go to a doctor, you need a financial professional, right? If you go on the left, once everybody, I'll wait till everybody gets it, and I'll just show, because I want to answer your question, and I just wanted to share this process of planning. And whether you make 10,000 or you make 30 million, I've got clients, and all the clients follow the same process. We start on the left and we work on the right. It ties to what I said before. Do you know what's coming in? If you know what's coming in, and I've figured out my bills, and you know what the goals are, then we get a sense of your financial position. That makes sense? Are we clear? Then we don't do investments first. We do protection planning, right? But in the financial position is also about the emergency fund. You should, to me, I think that's the most important thing. We know something's gonna go wrong. It's gonna happen. Like, we don't have to wait for it. Somebody's lost a job. Somebody's having an emergency. Somebody's had a health emergency. You got a family who's asking you for money. You need the cushion. We typically, as a race, don't have the proper cushion. To me, I think that's the number one thing. And as an entrepreneur, you got to plan for the unexpected. We want to wish for the best. We're planning for the worst. Right? That's what we do. Because if you plan for the worst, you've planned for it. You know you're going to lose your job. Can I survive for a year? The client's going to say no, or you didn't get that contract. Right? It's going to happen. But if you then you're stressed out. Like, we're going to the doctor, we're taking pills because we can't sleep, because we can't pay our bills. But if you had you'll just wake up at night saying, nah, I got it. I could do it. The other thing is, like, don't max out the credit cards, because if you gotta go to if you don't have enough the reserve and you don't have enough in the credit line, you can't even access that because I'm tapped out. Then you're stressed, right? So does that make sense? Okay, then we go to the investment conversation, right? But all of these is based on the goals. Do I know what you're trying to do, right? Once I know that, then the investment conversation, everybody's like, I want to do this account. It doesn't make sense for you. If you're in the income bracket, you qualify for a Roth, let's do the Roth, right? So I'm not going all over the place, but I wanted you to understand, like, there are three buckets, right? There's taxable bucket, right? Taxable, right? That is, I have an account, I'm earning interest, the government wants their piece. That's taxable. Are we clear? Then there's tax deferred. I work for a job, I have a retirement account. Like, most people understand 401k. Some of us had them. 401k is, I didn't pay taxes on that money yet, I'm gonna pay taxes in the future. That's tax deferred, right? And then there's tax free. So if I gave you a choice, do you want taxable, tax deferred, or tax free? Everybody says that. But if you go home and analyze what have you done, no one is in the tax free bucket. The tax-free bucket is cash value life insurance.
Is what?
Cash value life insurance, right? So, but it's information we just don't know, right? And that's why I want to make sure we get this information. This is not something, I've learned this 3 years with paying thousands of coaches at work. Like when I was at HSBC Private Banking, I didn't know this. We managed your money, we gave you great gifts, and we gave you great service. But like this wealth creation plan, a lot of people are not educating us about this wealth creation plan. Does that make sense? And then it's tax planning is, I'm working with a professional. We don't give tax advice. The first question I would say, like, who's your accountant? Who's giving the tax advice? We are working in conjunction to say, what is the plan for this client? Because we need to, is she trying to save taxes? And here's the thing, entrepreneurs. I'm trying to save money. I'm going to do my taxes. I'm not trying to pay taxes, or I'm trying to buy a house. I'm trying to start a business. All right, the last 4 years of your taxes showing you made a loss. So you think you're going to come to me to get a loan, your business has showed a loss for the past 3 years. What are we trying to go? Once we know where you're trying to go, we're giving you the advice of what to do. I don't want to pay taxes. It's not right for you. You're going to be harmed. Does that make sense? We got to think. The professionals have to talk to each other. What are you trying to do? And then we work as a team. The banker, the accountant, the financial advisor, together, the plan. All right? And then retirement planning. We're thinking about that now. When are you going to stop working? Where are you going to be? How much money are you going to need? Your lifestyle's on $5,000. When I retire, do you still need $5,000? Or do you need $6,000 or $10,000? When you first retire, you're healthier. You have more time now. You're traveling more. But as you go older, you may be slowing down. You may not need $10,000 a month. So it's the planning. Does that make sense? And then estate planning. How many have wills in this room? We don't have wills, folks. We don't know where the money, we've earned it. It's growing. Where is it going? What are the rules? So that's very important. And then your beneficiaries. Have you checked who this money's going to? A lot of people are dying, and it's like the ex-wife or the ex-husband, like we never change these things, right? So it's a process, and it's overwhelming, but we do it in steps, little steps. And it all ties into what I'm gonna say, because you'll see in it. Does that make sense? So these are some sample goals. I'm watching the time, 6:29, okay? And then the debt we talked about, right? So you do the budget, you tackle the small one, the long one. Again, I wouldn't save, not handle the debt and not worry about the savings. It's gotta be hand in hand, right? Because it's important to pay the debt, but it's also important to save. We talked about that, make it systematic to make sure that you can save, you get the compound interest. Setbacks, what could happen? Healthcare. You entrepreneurs, a lot of you have healthcare. What do you do for insurance? You have insurance? Yeah? Okay, a lot of people saying yeah. Okay, all right, y'all. Building Tulsa. Y'all got it? Health insurance. Health insurance. Health insurance. No, it's hard. And you're stressed out, and if something happens, how do you pay? And so that's the biggest thing right now where that's going to wipe people out. It's the health. And if you don't plan accordingly, it's gonna be. And then short-term and long-term disability is a thing that we're just not discussing, right? If you're working for a company, generally, the company would give you 60% of your salary, right? I made $100,000. We're worried about long-term disability. The reason why we're not worried about short-term disability, because we're assuming you've got that emergency fund. If something happened, short-term I can get by. But long-term disability, can I survive past 90 days? So most of the plans at work will cover 60% of that. But think about it. Some folks can't even survive on their full salary. Now you're telling the person, I'm on long-term disability, and I'm only getting 60% of my salary. Yes?
I asked you to repeat because I didn't hear what type of insurance.
Just talk a little louder.
I asked you to repeat because I didn't hear what type of insurance.
Do you talk about preventative care? Because I don't have health insurance yet. I
Do you talk about
preventative,
preventative
but I
care
have
because I
long-term
don't have health
disability
insurance
and
yet
other
I
things.
focus that would kind of supplement the lack of health insurance. If you get into that, because some people like need health
Sure.
insurance, get into that because
Sure.
they tomorrow, you know, I'm only a person, then someone that don't need medicine,
Sure.
prescriptions and stuff like that, so you get into that.
Sure.
Sister, I believe in the preventative care, but there's too many craziness going on right now. If I got somebody else affects you, you got to go to the hospital. I know some, huh?
It'll be out of pocket.
It'll be out of pocket. But if I can't pay my bills and I don't have reserve, where am I going to get the money to pay for out of pocket? A lot of people I'm meeting, a lot of entrepreneurs don't have insurance, and they're like, "We're going to cover it ourselves." I'm like, "Okay." I barely can pay my bills, and you're talking about like, you go into the hospital 1 day, 2 days, you need an anesthesiologist and this and this, you got a $50,000 bill. Now, some hospitals are making payment plans, but like your credit's messed up and this messed up. So I've got to tell you, the thing that I'm worried about the most for entrepreneurs is the healthcare. Unless you're at a place that you can get it, or, you know, I don't know what it is here. Like I know New York, there's the exchange and this and that, but I got to sort that out. And the disability for me is very important. We're just not discussing it. So think about it. Who has a car here? Yeah? You have car insurance? Okay, so let me help you understand this. You got a car, right? You know you need the car insurance, because what's going to happen? You may get into an accident. Would you not get into an accident saying, maybe I'm not will get into an accident? No, you don't think like that. Because you're like, something's going to happen. Either you're going to do it or somebody's going to hit you, right? If you can't get up and go to work and do your job, why would you not insure you? You wouldn't think about getting insurance on you? Who's going to pay the car insurance if you can't work? So this is the whole concept of like, we're not taking care of ourselves. And that's why, for me, disability is very important. And we are just not, we need to raise the alarm about life insurance and disability, because it's super, super important. Okay, so we talked about this. So 30s, okay. So 30s, we talked about preparing for the unexpected, or let's not say 30s, let's say the next level from Basic 101. Do you got a plan to get rid of the debt? It may take 5 years, it may take 10 years, and then some of us have IRS bills, right? Because we didn't pay our taxes on time, we didn't have professionals. The school loans, whether you can get them wiped out or not, we need to figure out is like, we can get out of it in 5 years or 10 years, so we can figure it out. We're building assets. We're understanding what does assets mean? Like we're, buying a place, whether it's a house or an apartment. You have equity in something, right? So building the assets. Your finances are stabilized. You kind of understand like, okay, I'm saving, I've got revenue sources, multiple revenue sources, right? Et cetera. So this is the next level, leveling up the next plan. That makes sense? Any questions? Yeah? Okay. We talked about again, now leveling up is, I've got the 3 to 6 months in the emergency fund, right? You got life insurance in play. And the other thing is, when I first started working, my friend's nephew was like a life insurance salesperson. He was like, yo, my boy needs some help. He needs some business. I bought $1 million term policy. I'm still paying that, $50 a month. No one educated me on life insurance, right? I'm from the Caribbean. You talk about life insurance. You try to kill me. You want the death, but life insurance could also be an asset, right? So if a young family's starting out, I'm talking about a young family first, they need life insurance, right? Because let's say 2 people are working, they've now got a mortgage, they've got kids. If God forbid something happened to either one of them, the cheapest life insurance is term insurance, right? You put let's say $1 million term policy, I was paying $50 a month, God forbid I passed, then $1 million is coming. Do we all know that life insurance proceeds are tax-free? Did we understand that? So basically, let's say you and I are married, and then we've got 2 kids, we've got a house. You've got $1 million policy, I'm the beneficiary, you got $1 million policy, and each other. So it's to protect if one of us, and I'm using a couple first, and then I'm gonna get to the single people, because the single client's like, why do I need life insurance? I'm gonna explain that. Because in case one of us, because right now, if she's making 100, I'm making 100,000, that's 200,000. 200,000 we need to pay the bills, pay the mortgage, pay the kids' tuition, etc., right? So we need the 2 incomes to survive. One of us gets off the track, that was only 100,000. So the $1 million life insurance will ease my pain because I've got to still pay for the kids' tuition. I've got to pay off that mortgage. Does that make sense? That's why people take, and if we didn't have a lot of money, we do cheap term, and if we're young and healthy, because remember, life insurance is also based on your age and if you're healthy or not. If you're not healthy, it's more expensive. I'm just keeping it simple. That's why we do it. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Quick question, which is more important, the age or the health?
It's both.
When it comes to
It's a combination of both. Male and female is different. Health is different and age is different. That's why the younger you are, you should do this early because it's cheaper early. Each month you wait, it's more expensive. And women and men, it's different. Smoking, non-smoking, smokers pay more also.
And if certain ailments.
And ailments. And some companies, depending on the companies, if you have a certain ailment, they won't take you. Like, we are a white-collar professional, which means we want professionals. Like, my sister, who's a visiting nurse who goes house to house in the Bronx, they were like, she seems dangerous. So we know which companies to go to if you have certain ailments who are prone to underwriting those type of risks, right? So you got to kind of know that. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. Now, for the single people. Okay, so that's the term insurance. The whole life insurance, which is permanent insurance, there's two things. There's a death benefit, God forbid she died, and there's a living benefit. So what the really rich people do is the term policy has cash inside. You can leverage, besides the death benefit, you can leverage the cash to do stuff. I can buy a house. I can finance a business, right? But it costs more, but it's an asset, right?
You said the term policy, you meant the whole life, right?
The whole life is an asset. The term is not. So think about it like, term is I'm renting an apartment, you move out, you paid rent for 5 years, you're gone. The whole life is like a condo, right? I own it, it has equity, I can do things with it, it's an asset, right? So the single person. So why should single people have insurance? One, if it's, you can say, who do you want to leave behind stuff for? Some of them are like, I don't care, I'm not around. There's no family person. Do you have a philanthropic wish? Did you want to help your church or start a scholarship? So that's one. If that's not your interest, then I would do it on the asset side of like the whole life, because remember, that's the tax-free bucket. The whole life is in the tax-free bucket. That money you can access is tax-free, and the death benefit is tax-free. It may sound overwhelming unless you have somebody who's willing to educate you and saying, I don't understand. We're here to explain. Because some people, they're not trying to explain because they don't have the time, right? So that's why it's important. It makes sense? Any questions? Yes.
I have a question. So like with the whole life, you said it's an asset and then you can take money out of it. So when you take money out of it, don't you have to pay it back?
That's a great question. So in the beginning, right? So I wouldn't do it. There's short-term plans, there's medium-term plans, long-term plans. I wouldn't say you as an entrepreneur, if you need money in a year, I'm gonna set that up to take the money out because it needs time to build, right? Mm-hmm. The beginning, you're paying for the death benefit, and then you'll see that. So it's doing the reserves, doing the savings, and then that's a medium-term strategy, right? Some people like, okay, 3 to 5 years, and you need money, that's where I'm going. I'm not doing it because I need money in a year. Okay. And then these policies also do dividends, so every year they also get dividends. So to your question about if you access money, you don't have to pay it back. If you didn't pay it back and you died, let's say she had $1 million policy and she took 100,000 out that was built up. If, God forbid, you died, your beneficiary will only get 900,000. Oh, okay. We would deduct it from the death proceeds. Okay. Make sense? Yeah. We clear?
So with the whole life versus the term, I've had life insurance since I was like 21, but I was still with advisors and stuff, never really able to understand like who the whole life is for. And isn't there another one as well?
There's a variable life, universal life.
Yeah, universal. And then finally, on my own, something clicked, and you can respond to this. Don't you need to be in a certain financial position to really be able to have that whole life benefit the most to you?
That's a great question. That's a fantastic question. So for new parents right now, we recommend whole lives for these kids. Why? Some kids are not going to college, right? Or the money, by the time they're 18, they can do whatever they want with it. They can either use it to pay the school, or they can use it to buy real estate, or et cetera. So we are using that strategy for young ones. To answer your question, it really comes down to budget, right? Let's say you're 30 years old and you're doing $1 million policy, right? The annual premium could be around $6,000. If, when we do the budget conversation, you can't afford it, and you can pay it annually, monthly, or quarterly. If in the budget conversation you can't afford it, it's not for you. But what we're finding is some folks have the capacity, they don't know about it. All they do is the money sitting in their bank. It's in the bank sometimes at 1%. So so what we try to do is saying, okay, do you have inefficiencies in your current world? We're looking at what are you currently doing that in our strategy, in the things that we know the 1%ers are doing. Folks, here's my why. The 1%ers and the advisors of the 1%ers are doing things that we never understood. And I didn't understand doing this thing the first 15 years. And I was like, oh, that's what y'all been doing? Y'all been keeping this from us? Oh no, this is not happening on my watch. So my personal goal is? I would like to create 50 new black millionaires in my watch. That's my dream. That's my dream. Because we don't share the information. So it's not natural saying like a black person only deals with a black advisor, a Chinese person only deals with a Chinese advisor, a white person, but the Hasidic community would only deal with the Hasidic advisor. They're not trying to deal with me. What I hear they do and what they come in, they're just like, I know I have to do more time educating because we don't have the knowledge. I got the strategies. Oh no, I know what to do. Oh no. But that's why I was like, this is not for everybody. If you and I sit down and you're not there, I'm like, nah, this is not for you. I'm not doing it. I don't have the time. Because the people that want to engage with me, they're ready. And I have the success. I have couples, before we started working, they were fighting, they were arguing about money. They're like, oh my God, like the money thing is real. I'm divorced. If you ask me why I got divorced, money. I'm honest about my situation. That's why I was like, I'm telling you things that I'm eating the Kool-Aid. I'm paying $2,000 a month in insurance. Do you think every time I pay that bill, I'm like, oh. But you know what? Do you know how much money I have in the thing? My 2 daughters? No, those girls are gonna be trust fund babies. They're gonna be good. Oh no, they're not playing. They're not gonna need a man. Their girls are good. So for me, the reason why I was excited about coming here, because I was like, oh my God, this is the target audience. I used to go to churches, I'm like, Lord, this ain't for me. They don't have, some of them didn't have a nickel to rub together. I get it, but it's not my right target audience. So I'm very clear. And if you're too busy, you can't return my calls, it's not for me either. Like, no, I'm not chasing you. We ain't got time for that. So I love what I do because we don't have the information. But when we have the information, these clients are making money. Financial freedom. That's what we need. We haven't had freedom, y'all. Y'all know you're from Tulsa. But I know Tulsa's different. Y'all had it. So that's why, for me, being here, it's like, y'all had it, y'all lost it, y'all had it, but we can't give up. I'm from Haiti. Y'all know what I've been through. We're not giving up. But the debt is real. We got to figure out a way to, and I know it's hard when you're not making a lot of money, you're an entrepreneur, it's not consistent. The other thing is, for those of you who have not taken the leap of faith, maybe it's not time yet. Y'all need to maybe wait another year. Save more money, get rid of the debt. Like we're so like, I got an idea, I got a little bit of money in 401k, I'm gonna pull it out. Then we got tax bills, right? So if you haven't taken the leap, do the plan, work with a professional, be prepared. And if you already took the leap, you gotta, I know it's hard, we gotta plan. But the rewards are amazing. Because think about like, you can like do whatever you want, you can help your family, you can help the people, like you solve the thing. Yeah, I got great businesses, but we need to focus on this as well. Like we can't shy away from the numbers. It's important. And that's not the thing that I like to do. Like I'd rather go to the doctor than go to the accountant. I'm like, oh, what's that look like? Does that make sense? Am I rambling? Is this hitting in? Okay, all right. So I want to make sure like y'all think I came and I dropped some good nuggets. Are we getting some nuggets? Yes. Okay, awesome. And then, so listen, the diversified investment, I did a little diagram. So right now, you guys go up the mountain. Like, let's talk about mountain climbing, right? So you're in the cash accumulation phase, right? You're just saving money. We want you to focus on where you should put money in the buckets, right? So you're having these tax-free bucket, tax-deferred bucket. The hardest part is coming down the hill. Do you know most mountain climbers die coming down the hill, right? Because it's most dangerous. When you're in retirement, it should be, when I need money, where do I get the money from? So if going up the hill, you set up the buckets, if the stock market is down, you're not going into the investment account to take money. I'm going into the cash-free, tax-free bucket because I need to allow the market to come back up. This is like strategies of the rich. How to do it properly going up, and then when I'm coming down the hill, when I need money, where do I get it from? Because you don't take it from when the market is down. If you retired and all your money was in the stock market and when it was down, and you still need money per month, so you're taking money out and then you're not allowing it to come back. These people got to go back to work. It's real. Okay, can we talk about credit scores for a second? All right. We are obsessed with credit scores. I get it. I got a 500, I got a 600, I got 758. So I get being an entrepreneur, credit score in America is very important, right? It affects your loan. It affects getting a house. Sometimes it affects jobs because they're running credit reports. I want us to focus on net worth, right? I know you need the credit score, but if you focused on the net worth, and let's go on the back of the sheet, and let's just draw a line in the middle, right? So we're gonna just draw a simple line down the middle, right? And this is the simple net worth formula. On the left side, we're gonna put a big A, right?
Big what?
A like apple, right? And on the right side, we're gonna put an L, as in liabilities, right? We're gonna do the simple math. We're gonna subtract the A from the L, right? What goes into A? A is, I've got $200 in the bank. I'm putting it here, right? I've got an investment account of $1,000. I'm putting it here. I own a house. If I were to sell the house tomorrow, the house is worth $1 million. I'm putting it on the A side. Does that make sense? So assets. Assets are money in the bank, money in investment accounts, and like I own a business and the business is worth, and we don't normally do this because y'all say my business is worth, no, let's not put the equity in the business right now. Let's leave that one on the side. If you own an apartment or a house, we're putting what the value of it there. Are we clear on the A side? On the L side is I've got credit card bills. How much are the credit card bills in total? I'm putting it there. I got a mortgage. The total of the mortgage, I'm putting it here, right? I've got student loans. The total amount I'm putting here. We're gonna add everything here. We're gonna add everything here, and we're gonna subtract, right? So let's go back to the simple math. This side is 10, this side is 10. You got a net worth of 0. I'm not judging the 0 yet, okay? Are we clear? 10 here, 10 here, yes?
You just mentioned, if I'm correct, you said mortgage on the liability side, but earlier when you were talking, you said a house is an asset.
So, I'll say you have a house. If you want to sell the house tomorrow, the house, I can sell it for $100,000. I'm going to put $100,000 here. But that house right now, I have a mortgage of $75,000. I'm going to put the $75,000 here. And so net, you're $25,000 up. Are we good? 10 here, it's 0. You have net worth of 0. We're not judging the 0, I'm just saying it's 0. This is 20 on the asset side. The liabilities is 10. Subtract 10 from 20, it's 10. I've got a net worth of 10. And then assets are money in the bank, money totally investment account. I've got a retirement account, it's X. I've got the house, whatever it's worth, is on the A side, assets. Are we good with the assets? Liabilities, I've got $5,000 worth of credit card debt. I've got $10,000 in loans. I've got a mortgage, the mortgage is $50,000. We're adding all of the bills on the left. I've got a car note, and the total amount of the car loan is $20,000. All of that, okay? So the 20 is the assets, the 10 is liabilities. That person has a net worth of 10. Are we good? The asset side is 10. The liabilities is 20. The person has a negative net worth of 10. Okay? I am not here to judge the 0 or the 10 or the negative 10. What I'm saying is, wherever you are today, it's today. I hear what it is. Like, I can't do anything about it. I'm saying is, how do we know we made progress with you as a client? We want you to increase your net worth by 10%. The person who had a negative net worth because their bills were more than what they own, when we sit down and we re-review for next year, did you pay a little bit off more of the debt? Yes. Annually. We like to look at the net worth annually. Some people like to do this in December or January, whatever time, but we want to make sure it's a year from now. We made progress, which means either I made a little more money, I saved a little bit more in the emergency fund, or I paid off one credit card. Does that make sense? It means I made some progress. I took a side hustle and made a little extra more money. I paid off one extra bill. I saved a little more. That's what I think you should focus on. Figure out your net worth and saying, did I make progress? I'm not saying the credit score is not important, because either I'm paying late in my bills because it's going to affect my credit score. I got more debt. Let's focus on net worth. If we focus on that, we'll know we're making progress. Are we clear? Does that make sense? Yeah. That's what I want us to focus on. The next time somebody says, like, what's your credit score? You should say, do you know what your net worth is? Let's leave it at that. That's it. And look, and then look, the credit cards I get. Let's talk to the person like the points. I get the points thing. We're falling into the trap with the points thing because we're relying on, I need the points, I need the points. And all of a sudden, at the end of the month, you've got 5,000 because I needed the points. Sometimes, you know what that 5,000 is? It'd be extra $100. Like, the perks are not perking anymore. Like, they're hard. By relying on the credit cards, you need to get into habits of, like, do you know what it's like to pay in cash? Who paid for cash for something the other day? Yeah? Does anybody use cash anymore? If people don't accept it, I know a lot of places don't accept it, but you can use your debit card. I'm looking at the time, we're almost there. It's the over-reliance on things that are making us fall into traps. And the credit cards are hard. Yes.
So we're going to be humble, open, and transparent.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we listen and we don't judge.
We don't judge. This is a non-judgment group. We don't judge. We're not judging.
So when I divorced when I was 30.
Okay.
And I had 2 children. I still have them. Jesus, they're so alive. And I know I had to replace that income that I was just losing, and I didn't want to rely on his responsibilities, because if you couldn't pay attention to the contract we had, then therefore I don't trust you anyway.
Sure.
Right? So I shut down every credit card I had once I became divorced. And I didn't have a lot on credit cards. It was mostly, I just used it for Christmas, to be honest, and gas, right? I shut them all the way down. And now that I'm older, and now I say, hey, you know what, I'm starting to get into credit cards because now I need to use a credit card now for getting a rental car or things like that.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing the right thing by not living beyond my means, because with 2 daughters, when Christmas came, it was hard for me to say no to them, especially I was guilty because I divorced their father. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just didn't want to set myself up. So I'm hearing that was the wrong thing to do.
No. So
because I only spent cash. I didn't have any credit.
I get the divorce thing because I went through it. Also, so I get it. Look, there's with the credit cards and joint names, single names, like there's all of that, and there's unwinding of resources, right? So that's traumatic in a nutshell. I think some of us have just too many cards, right? Do we need 3 cards or 4 cards or 5 cards? We don't need that. What we told our clients before the pandemic or during the pandemic, people who had homes, we told them, go get a home equity line of credit. Because we didn't know how long this pandemic was going to have. We wanted to make sure like you had every way you can get to money, you got to money, right? So if you had credit cards, we told people, okay, go get another credit. Because we wanted you to make sure that you're not going to be homeless, right? So there's the element of like the cards in case of emergency. I don't need 6 cards. I can manage 1 or 2 cards. But we're just 5 cards, 6 cards. We don't know, 29%, 28%. Do you know, like I think it's like 5,000, 10,000 at 30%, you're paying the minimum payment. You're never paying that card off. And these companies are making billions of dollars. Yes.
Can I make a comment though? Isn't
Sure.
it partially if you have the discipline to keep it, and it sounds like you knew in that situation, like it wasn't something you could keep and not use at the time. But like now, maybe you're able to hold on to them and maybe have the discipline to keep it. You pay for Netflix on it and you pay that off every month to just build some of that credit back up.
So to answer your question, I just received a credit card. It was my youngest daughter who's in college. She said, when I saw her, I was like, oh my God, you have a credit card? I told you don't fall for those people during freshman week, like doing cards. Right. And she said, Mom, I pay for everything on this one credit card and I pay off the credit card all the time. That's why she's able, she said, how do you think I was able not to put anything down on my brand new car?
Yeah.
And she taught me, it was just so sad. I just think as a race or as a community, I can't speak for everybody.
Sure.
So I really don't want to generalize that because there's Black people that are
of
in
course.
finance. But I know in my Southern household,
Sure.
like literally when we buried my grandfather, we are still finding money in tin cans in his backyard. We did not trust,
Yeah.
financial institutions, and that's just real. And so my
100%.
mother, she taught me how to balance a checkbook, and that's how, as far as her financial education went.
Sure. It's strange. I look at my 2 daughters. Look, they didn't have the upbringing that I had. They've been very blessed, but because they have better habits, sometimes I'm like, don't you want this? They're like, no, Dad, I'm good. Because they've been brought up differently than, it's habits, right? And when we have better habits, that's why for me, it's like, it's not fad diet. I would prefer to you saying like, okay, here's what we've done, some couples. They've got goals, we sit down, they do well. They go out to eat 3-4 times a week. 2 bottles of wine. I'm not here to judge your lifestyle. You've given me the goals. So I say to them, okay, let's start with this way. Let's go out 3 nights a week. Let's start by 1 bottle of wine instead of 2, right? Do we need Chateau Laurent $500? Let's do little steps, right? And one couple, the husband likes sneakers, the wife likes sneakers, he likes shopping. They have a budget. They get each, I think, $1,500 a month. Do whatever you want with no judgment because they put the emergency fund, they paid the bills, they paid the retirement savings, and they still have excess money. We're working hard. We're not telling you not to live well. Like, you can die tomorrow. We're just saying, let's make a little tweaks to get you into better habits. That's it. Because then it becomes like I put on like 7-8 pounds. I've been traveling nonstop. We had lunch. I wanted dessert. It's like, it needs to start like, you need 1 less dessert a week. You're not gonna lose the weight. Or I need to walk. I got an hour walk this morning. I gotta walk more. Or I gotta eat less. I can't want to say I want to lose weight. I'm not walking more, eating less. I've got to do something to get me on the track. I'm not doing Ozempic. I'm afraid. But I'm like, I got to do something. Does that make sense? Just better habits. Yeah? And this is much the same. Have a will. Work with professionals. It's like, we just got to, you guys work with professionals. People who are giving you right. If you're doing your own taxes, maybe it's not time to do your own taxes. Rules change so much. You could be missing out on deductions. Like if we're gonna cut, some places I think we shouldn't cut. You know what I mean? That's just my, sure.
Do you have any recommendations for going about the will? That's the one thing I
Mhm.
really do need to do, but I'm like,
Sure.
I get intimidated because I look at like, the LegalZoom forum online, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do that, but I don't know. In my community, there's
Sure.
not someone that's like a go-to, this person will do your will, they're not gonna overcharge you, they're gonna explain things to
Sure.
you, that kind of thing.
Sure. Again, this is Reggie Canal's personal opinion. It's made us very easy to go online for everything. I'm gonna go online and get a will. Do you know if any wrong thing, and we have on staff a trust and estate attorney. She can't execute documents, but she gives client advice. We've heard so many examples that the person went on to save money, and the thing that they did when they time to move the assets, because that thing was set up wrong, it messed them up at the end, right? I don't know if Building Tulsa has an estate planning attorney or in their network. There's not complicated wills. If you don't have a lot of assets, it's a healthcare proxy, a power of attorney, and a simple will. I think, again, I don't know if these are Tulsa prices, New York prices, $2,500, $3,000. You get 3 documents all in a package. And so I don't believe in doing these online things. That's my personal opinion. If you do anything wrong, it's going to mess you up in the back. And you guys are building assets, and then the naming is wrong. Do you need a trust or not have a trust? It gets complicated. Yes.
I will say my uncle just passed, and his wife is Asian, and she's been living here for about 20 years. But he set them up, had everything set up the right way. But if your family doesn't know how to access it, or you don't have it in the right place,
Sure.
the bills not set up,
Yeah.
it is hard to figure out how to get access to it.
100%.
So, especially, if you're not from here, your family doesn't know about money and stuff. So I would say that's something really important, because if my mom wasn't allowed, it would be hard for us to help her access the will, the life insurance policy and everything, just to be able to
Sure. And
process it.
different states have different rules. It's very, look, I'm focused on building generational wealth, okay? There are things you have to do to build generational wealth. There are tools and practices and things you have to set up. Look, we've, as a people, worked hard. Like, I'm not just want to get by. I'm beyond getting by. Like, I'm not interested in that. Like, I meditate every morning, and I say I'm a mogul. I say, I want to hang with moguls. I want to dress like a mogul. And I say to myself, like, is that a mogul move? That's whack. Moguls don't do that. So honestly, I like this, and I believe it. I feel it. And like, there were things that those 1%ers, those families have done. We have access to information, but you got to put these things in place. Like, part of it is the wills and the trust and the life insurance policies and the savings and the professionals. Those people, they know what to do. And if it's not complicated, those people, they have plans. Like, it's not gonna.
Tulsa County clerk, they will store your will. I read that last night. And they have the forms, so you just have to go down to the courthouse on the 2nd floor. They have forms for you. And
Sure. I think it would be interesting, because you have such an ecosystem, if that's something the members want, somebody that's trustworthy and vetted, and then they know they've got a whole bunch of founders, and they know, like, okay, Building Tulsa vetted them, and it's this estate and a trust and attorney person that can put the wills, do you need a trust or not a trust, healthcare proxy. Because the other thing that's happened is, you're building assets. You got to protect the assets. We had a question. Yeah?
Can you explain the difference between what a trust is? I mean, you've mentioned so many other forms.
So I try to stay in my lane, and there are professionals, like, same way I don't give tax advice. The trust and the depending what you're trying to do, like, we hear the word trust, I need a trust. Once you sit with a trust and estate attorney, then they'll tell you, does it make sense for just a will or a trust? But I'm not qualified to give that advice. But if it's like, depending, like, you want to title things a certain way. I'll give you an example. My mother, who's 86, I've got 2 sisters. My mother's a single mother. I'm going to tie this back. When I found out the amount of money my mother made when I first started working, I think my first job, my starting salary was higher than what my mother made. She put 3 kids through school, Catholic school, bought her own house. Look, she's not going to the Four Seasons. She's not buying Gucci loafers. Her habits were different, but she was a saver, right? But now that she's older, this house, which is her biggest asset, we need to put that in a trust because, God forbid, she needs health care. The fact that the house is out of her name will help the transfer of the asset. You go to a professional and they'll tell you, what are you trying to do? And they'll say, do I need a will or a trust? But there's different reasons, but you would have to go to a professional. Correct. And there's revocable trusts and there's irrevocable. This is like, I did it, you better be sure because you did it, you can't go back. So you gotta know, there's a lot, these things are very complicated, so you gotta go to somebody who knows. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question. So the 20s, 30s, and go up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how would you counsel someone who, like, I'm like, oh no, I'm not in my 20s anymore. When I say that, I'm like, oh no. So do you ever, for instance, are you more aggressive, say, with someone if they have like a life-changing event like divorce? So now their trajectory is a little different. Do you ever say, you know what, this was the plan in terms of you want to do step 1, but now we need to be more aggressive here because you're closer to retirement?
Sure. Yeah. Look, first of all, you're developing a relationship with someone, right? You're developing with someone who now understands with no shame everything, right? And then the person is saying, the goals can change, right? So we meet with our clients, we understand the master plan, and then we try to connect quarterly. And we say, what's changed? Do we have any big expenses coming up? Did we lose our job? Things happen, folks. Unexpected. We got a plan. Yes.
I have a question about student loans
Sure.
As a liability. Is it a real liability? It is.
No, I'm acknowledging. I'm letting you finish the question.
So as I'm thinking about calculating the net worth, I mean, it would be negative, like, I put it down for like, how do people view their student loans as it comes to their net worth?
Sure, it's a bill, right? But we're not analyzing what's in the liabilities number. I just want to know next year when you and I sit down and look at your net worth, you paid some of them down.
We have to pay it back.
Or if you couldn't, you couldn't, right? Look, life happens. It's just a conversation. It's something to say like, tell me what happened, Desiree. It's been on pause. I've had other bills, I have an emergency. But if I saw like you paid $10,000 for the year, we made progress. You had to go to school. There's nothing we can say about the student loans. Sure. We got about 5 minutes and then we're gonna, go ahead.
How does your firm structure its fees? Are you fee-based or are you taking a percentage of
Sure.
insurance, or how do you
Sure,
charge?
that's a great question. How do we work? We work 2 ways. Someone comes to me and be like, listen, okay, I explain we are a holistic financial planning firm, which means I gotta take time to understand who you are, right? Once we understand who you are, what are your goals, then this is our process. The process doesn't change. The process just, I need to understand who you are and your goals. We're gonna go through this if you engage with us. Some people saying, you know what, I just need the life insurance or I need an investment account. They want something just specific. We meet with them, they need the life insurance in place, we do that. When we do that, where we place the business, they pay us commission. So not for them. That's not the way we wanna work, but if I feel also you're the right fit for me, all of my clients are like my friends. I'm gonna hang out with them. If you're calling me and I don't wanna take your call, you're not. At this stage of my life, I'm very blessed, folks. My business is referrals. I love what I do. I'm not taking on crazy people. Not doing it at this stage. If you're not aligned with me, we don't connect, you're not for me. If we do, and I say to you, you're gonna engage with me, I am 150% because this is the work God put me here to do. The other way is financial planning. We do fee-based financial planning. We are objective. People think in this job, I need to keep my seat in my job. If I'm not there, I cannot survive. I'm running a business. So we do fee-based financial planning and people pay an annual fee and then we do a plan. Or if it came to a referral, I will say, I'm not charging that person for a fee. We're gonna go through the process. Because you came in from a trusted way, we'll do the holistic planning. I decide if I'm gonna charge them or not. I have that liberty, right? And so we discuss up front. I say, hey, you came referred by so-and-so. We're gonna do the work. Because you know what happens if I do a great job? They're gonna refer me their friends. Like my best client is a 30-year-old, fifth-year attorney. I'm not gonna say her name, she makes $500,000. She's referring me 3 of her girlfriends that all make that same amount of money. Could you imagine at 50? These girls are moguls. And they listen, they're engaged. So for me, if I do my thing, it's a referral. Does that answer the question?
It does, and part of the reason I was asking the question for the room is like thinking, and I'm not saying this is your firm, but thinking about choosing a financial planner partner.
Yeah.
I think it's important to understand what they might be motivated by.
Absolutely.
And where their advice may be coming from so like if you're doing a fee-based arrangement, you're making your money regardless of the advice that you give.
100%.
So that's why,
And we are objective. When clients think like they're not trying to pay, the person's making you do things to generate commissions because the person still they have a firm, they have responsibility. So just think about like, you go to a doctor, you pay. You go to an attorney, you pay. People think like in this field, they don't have to pay. It's a professional. We are professionals. We are doing the thing. And if I do a bad job, I get written up. It goes to the state. You don't want that. And New York, the market is small. Like you could call somebody, you know that person? And 2 seconds they're like, don't do business with that person. And that's the kiss of death. Yes, last question.
Right, so for an entrepreneur that is, feel like they are maintaining and they are trying to figure it out, where do you feel like, it's okay, this is the intermediate level, you're not ready for a financial advisor because you might not be able to afford it, so this is where you start, then you just stay on YouTube. What, like you said, it's fee-based, I asked you for people who I said, who is your financial advisor? Some people say Charles Schwab's, Robinhood, but you say online sometimes is the best. What does that look like for someone who's trying to get better financially, but we still want to train them?
Yeah, I mean, look, we start off with a 30-minute conversation, and then I'm honest. Folks, I sleep well at night. I'm a religious person. If I make $1 wrong, it'll haunt me. And so for me, it's not in my nature, right? And so if I feel it's not a right fit, I'll say it's not a right fit. And then, or I'll say like, you should do this. And then if it's a right fit, then you have to decide. And then we, rules of engagement, this is how we work well, and then we go. So folks, I want to thank you. I actually want to thank you for the engagement. I hope from this, you learned a little bit about what does financial wellness mean for you, right? Because all I ask is that save. Get into the habit of saving, right? Get into the habit of addressing our debt. If it's a lot, let's focus on how can we minimize the debt, right? And then work with professionals, work with each other, do business with each other. Like financial freedom is the best thing. And I hope for you all, financial freedom. Thank you for giving me the time. And thank you for having me build in Tulsa. And have a good night. If there were 2 major takeaways from tonight's session, I would say 1, work on your goals, short, medium, and long term. And 2, work with a professional, work with a financial professional. Thank you, and let's grow wealth together.